Well, the woods are looking particularly woody today. It's early in the morning and the sun isn't out yet, which is nice because in woodland I find there's far too much contrast when the sun gets up. It's still nice, a bit different, but I do prefer this rather muted and saturated colour you get. Now I've come across a scene within the woodland, not a view I've shot before, and the first decision I have to make on this bit of a dull morning is to go for either colour or black and white. Now I am going to favour XP2 Super black and white, although I do have a choice of some colour films, colour film for a change, and midges. Go for the black and white because it just looks better, the rendering, it looks more subtle and soft. I think if there's a little bit more light around I may shoot the colour. Perhaps later, but for now let's go with the mono. Yes, the midges are not only bothering me and biting me, I've also got them on the viewfinder screen as well. I'm looking through and it's little bugs crawling around in there. Okay, so let's just go through this composition quickly while I'm being eaten alive. Camera, 80mm standard lens. I've got this lovely foreground set of dead branches and tree trunks here, which are forming at the base of the composition. Backdrop of these trees, I like the extra foliage, which adds some dimension to it and some depth. Geese being very noisy going overhead. And yes, just a couple of quick frames and I'm out of here. Now, whilst fighting off the midges, and I'm going to have to be quick because they have homed in on me now, they've found me. I'm going to take this shot at f/16. I don't need excessive depth of field with my 80mm lens. I've got enough because the foreground isn't too close. And I'm going to go for 2 seconds with XP2 Super. That's going to give me plenty of shadow detail and no real highlights. Just mirror up. And there we go.
Well, I'm very pleased with this one. It's turned out better than I actually expected. The trees, the branches in the foreground, they just provide the base for the image. And in the square format, it all flows very well. It's all very well contained around the edges as well with the foliage. So, yeah, I'm very happy.
Well, it's difficult to explain the misery of midges if you've never experienced them. I mean, even I think to myself, when I see them on other people's videos or I see myself complaining in the past, I think they can't be that bad, Steve, just to work through it. But there's something incredibly annoying about being constantly nipped and bitten and, oh, they just get everywhere, the little sods. Right, I'm just working along this little moss area. These are the mosses we have here in Delamere Forest, and very beautiful they are too. You've got to be quite careful, they can be quite treacherous if you get around the edges. And nice to see this one's filled up again a little bit after being dry for a while. Now I've decided not to go too far this morning in yomping around the forest because there's so much growth. Everywhere's pretty much the same, to be honest. If I can just get an interesting clearing, then all the better. But I think I will just work within maybe 100 yards or so and see what I can see. Well, as is often the case with my photography, after wandering around fruitlessly for half an hour, I find myself back very close to where I started, and I'm actually shooting some of the same material but from a different angle. Now, I found these old logs, these old branches quite attractive. They're dried out, so they're a bit lighter now and they stand out against the mud. Once again, with my standard lens, f/16, I'm focusing in quite closely, excluding any background, any water or any distracting elements. And within the square frame, the movement of these logs or twigs, if you like, flow through the frame from bottom to top, which is quite nice. Other than that, all I can say is it's something that just attracted me as soon as I saw it. And it's something I've not shot before, something I've not even seen before here. So it's always good to try something new. Anyway, metering. Now, metering is pretty straightforward for this one. There's no real highlights or shadows, and with the XP2 Super, fantastic dynamic range. Just going to take a quick meter reading around the scene, looking at the shadow areas predominantly. And I'm getting a second at f16 typically when I meter around. It's probably only about a 4-stop dynamic range, so absolutely trivial for this film.
Now it's nice to see these branches from the other side, from the first shot. In this particular arrangement, they don't look such a mess, so jumbled. They actually all form a very coherent pattern into the frame, which I really do like. And again, I think the balance works well in the square format, and it wouldn't really suit any of the other aspect ratios.
Now, because I was able to work that scene quite quickly, the midges have only just discovered me after about 10 minutes, which is fantastic. So I'm going to just outsmart them again by moving about a bit whilst looking for another composition. I may return then back and shoot something very close to where I was, having left them up around here behind me. Well, I'm pleased to say that within probably about 10 yards of where I took the other two images, I do have a third image. Now, this is a more open scene. It's again with the 80mm lens, no surprise, favourite focal length. And it's got the whole woodland encompassed in here, but it's nice to see some of the elements of the other shots sort of subtly placed within the frame, although you would be hard pushed to tell actually looking through the viewfinder. So again, it's a second at f16. Actually no, it's f22, because I have some foreground ferns which I'm concerned about losing the focus on. So f22, 1 second. And that's it. And I'm pleased to say I'm going to be getting out of this midge hell.
Now this one for me is probably the least successful of the trio. However, I do like its almost infrared look. It's got a real glow about it with XP2 Super. But perhaps a little bit jumbled. Maybe it'll grow on me. And I do like some of the arrangements, particularly the trees in the background.
Well, I don't often say this about a photo shoot, but I'm glad that is over. Loved the photography, hated the midges. Did feel a bit rushed. So, you know, it probably was only about an hour and a half or so to get those images, whereas I'd have spent a lot longer had I been less bothered by the little bitey insects. So anyway, enough from me from today. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again as ever. Thanks for watching.